So this is a good time to save. Save that as ARM4. And so now I'm going to make the FK controls visible again. And so the only thing that's left to do now is to wire the controls up to the orient constraints. Okay, so I'm going to use my clavicle controller here, and I'm going to edit, and I'm going to add an attribute. And I'm going to add an attribute called FK to IK. It's a float, which is a default. Give it a minimum value of 0 and a maximum of 10, and that's pretty standard. Just makes for pretty decent scrubbing distance. So I'm going to click on OK. So now I can see this new attribute that's on this controller. And I can come and click on it and drag left to right, or select it here, and with the middle mouse button, drag left and right out here in the scene. Or I can just type in values. So I've made this attribute, but it's not connected to anything. So let's connect it up. So to do that, I'm going to go to my animation menu. I'm going to go to Key, Set Driven Key, and go to Set. Okay, so I'm now in Set Driven Key mode. And what you do here is you take a driver, and so I'm going to click on Load Driver, and then I'm going to load the driven. So essentially I've got my object, and I can take one of the attributes or channels, and then I can drive other objects and channels of those objects. And I can set keyframes for them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the constraints, and I'm going to say load driven. So these were the original constraints that I put on the bind skeleton. And then if I come over here to the hand, actually let's start with the clavicle. And then I can see the two weight attributes up here. Okay, and then if I click up here, back on IK to FK. So when this is at value 0, I'm going to call that FK. When that's at 0, and if I come down to this, select those attributes. So when that one's at 0, I want the FK weight to be at 1 and the IK weight to be at 0. Okay, so then I'm going to key that. Once I key it, I get those blue images there. So then I'll just go down the chain here. Same thing. When this controller IK to FK is at 0, or in FK mode, I want the IK to have 0 weight. Key. And I'm just going to follow that same pattern. Make sure that those are selected. And the last one. so now I'm going to come up here, and now I'm going to take this value and I'm going to set it up to 10. And so then I come back down here, and all I'm going to do is just reverse these values. So when I'm in IK mode, or 10, then I want the IK weight to be 1, and the FK weight to be 0. Let's key that. Same thing, just reverse, whoops, just reverse these. This one at 1, and that one at 0. Key. Oh, and I didn't have these selected. Key. One and 0. Key. And again, got to select it. Okay, so now comes the moment of truth. I'm going to test these and see if they work. So, let's turn FK mode to 0, and let's turn on the other skeletons. So if I'm in FK mode, and if I rotate here, and let's switch back to 0.5, or 5 rather. Okay, so if I'm at 0, the bind skeleton is following the FK, and if I'm at 10, the bind skeleton is following the IK. And you can test that as well. And let's test these also. And everything's working as expected. So if things don't work, what you'll need to do is just go back and rekey everything. So you got to be really careful when you're doing it. You could maybe do a join or two and test it to make sure you're doing it the right way, and then continue on and finishing it up. Okay, so I know that that works. So now what I want to do is take my controllers, and so now I'm going to come up here and put out all objects off in my selection mask, and then just turn on curves only. So let's take all my curves, and let's come and just reset them to 0, except for the scale. Same thing with these. 0. And 0. So I've got everything zeroed out. Now what I want to do is bring up the set-driven key again. I'm going to select the controller, load driver, and now I'm going to go to load driven, which is going to be my FK controls. Load driven. You notice I didn't select the top one because that one has the attribute on it, and I don't want that to go invisible. So let's select all these. They all have a common attribute in this visibility, so I can just select that. And again, IK to FK. So when this is at 0 or FK, and I come down here. I want my visibility to be on, or a value of 1. So let's key that. And then come back here, and when this is a value of 10, I want this value to be 0 or off. And we'll key that. Okay, so then we can test. So at FK they're visible, at IK or 10 they're off. And we're going to do the same thing for the IK controls. So let's load those as the driven. Again, visibility. So at 0 or FK mode, the visibility of these should be set at 0 or off. Let's key that. Come back here, and when this is at 10, these should be at 1 or on. Key that. So now I change the visibility of my controllers. So then I'll do another test. Let's go to IK here, or FK rather. And let's go halfway, a little over halfway, and then these turn on. And everything's working just swimmingly. So that's our IKFK switch. It's very standard. Standard type of a rig. And the only thing that's left to do now is just tidy a few things up. So with the IK handle, I should rename that to left underscore IK arm handle. I also want to take my controllers so let's grab all my controllers, and these are only going to rotate. So I can right click and lock and hide selected. I don't need them to scale, so I can lock and hide selected. And I can do the same thing with the IK here. Now, IK handle, I'm going to translate and rotate it, but I'm not going to scale it, so lock and hide selected. And the pull vector control, I'm only going to move it. So let's block out rotation and scale. And so that is what you're going to call more of a clean rig. And again, I want to just have only the controls on. So what I would do here is then take my joint chains, group them, Control G, rename this to skeletons, and that's just an organizational group. Never going to move that group. And all of this stuff here, I can grab that, Control G, and these are controllers. Again, just organizational, never going to move that group. And then I would want to hide those. And under Show, I might want to, I can click and take that off. Show None, come back to Show Nerves Curves. And show joints and and I can hide the IK handles. So I can set that up like that, or I can just come in and I say show all. I could just maybe take an IK handle and just hit display. I can hide the selection. So that's going to be hidden unless I go in and unhide it. So if it's grayed out here, that means it's hidden. So that's an IKFK arm. There's only one thing that I forgot here. It's kind of a little more housekeeping. So if I'm in IK or FK mode, and if I go and rotate this, or excuse me, if I'm in IK mode, and if I go to rotate this, well, nothing's happening. I want to make sure I undo that. Again, you always want to go back to 0. And the reason for that is I want to take my IK skeleton and I'm going to take the FK controller here and then shift select the IK skeleton on this joint. I want to orient constrain that so that when I'm in IK mode, that I can still rotate that joint. So now it's complete. So save my scene as IKFKRM 5. And have fun with IKFK.